This is the first part of a conversation I had with Michelle Gibson. If you're not familiar with Michelle's work, she has been looking into the old world for quite some time now, longer than most. Her research is deep and thorough. I believe she has unearthed many important points having to do with the old world and the previous cataclysm and the intentional destruction of the energy grid here. If you enjoy this conversation, make sure to check out her work and keep an eye open for the following two parts of this conversation. Thanks for being here. Michelle Gibson, joining me again. Over a year it's been since we chatted, so it's nice to talk to you and see your face in real time.
Thank you, Chris. I'm really glad to be here with you today.
I want to present your channel to my viewers. I think most of my viewers are aware of your work, but I don't want to assume, so I'll just share your YouTube channel with the viewers. And I want to say I have been thoroughly enjoying your conversations with people from the local areas that you talk to or that you cover. It's really interesting to get that local perspective, and I think really important, adding a lot of color and flavor to the research. So I appreciate what you're doing there.
Yeah, it's really important. I agree. It takes a village, literally. And over the years, I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and in some cases, sending photographs, and so I've invited people like that to give them an opportunity to talk about their interests and areas of expertise and areas of study. And by and large, they don't have channels. And no one of us can cover all of this. It's impossible. And not only that, in this community, we're coming from different places, different guidance. I'm doing what I'm guided to do. You're doing what you're guided to do. Other people are doing what they're guided to do. And we're all bringing back different parts of this. And it's all important. But the people that follow our work also, as their eyes start to open and they start to put their own puzzles pieces together, they have important insights that just adds to, with those of us that have decided to move forward with a YouTube channel or some other type of platform or writing, and mine is both writing and making videos from my blog posts. I never did anything like this up until 2018. And I had gotten in a stream of information and wanted to get it out. And that was when I started my blog, and I was just going to blog, and I made one video, and that was going to be my only video, and somebody subscribed to my YouTube channel, and that was in June of 2018. And it's like, well, I guess now I have to make videos, and it's easy for me to turn my blog post into videos. And so, and that's what got me started. And Chris, I just want to put a plug in for your books.
Thank you.
Because if you want to red pill somebody passively, and we all know that this is not a topic of conversation you can just bring in nonchalantly. People have to be ready for it, or the cognitive dissonance is strong, because we have literally been lied to about everything in our reality for a reason. So we would be misinformed and miseducated and at odds with each other about, the true nature of this place. And, it's something that when you do what you've done in these books and with your videos, but, in this printed form, you can literally just leave it on a table. And have it there. Somebody can come and pick up. And the way you've done it is like in bite-sized chunks.
Mm-hmm.
pictures of old buildings and the story behind what happened to them. And it makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
And unless somebody is thoroughly mind controlled or conditioned, it will at least open a door
Yeah.
for maybe asking, wait a minute.
Yeah, I've experienced it myself with those, and I think that's what's nice in that physical, tangible form where somebody can just start flipping through it, and accidentally be awestruck at the structures that once existed here in North America. And I want to say, though, the reason for my channel existing has a lot to do with your work and a couple others, John Levi, Campbell, Autodidactic. Those are some of my major early influences, but this is game of inspiration here. And you're a large part, early part of that chain. And I just sort of hopped on and I felt compelled to create content as a source of inspiration for people as well. So it's like you were mentioning, people who don't have a channel. Maybe they're thinking about it. I would certainly encourage anyone out there to start creating your own content, and uh, and I would be happy to share your content with my audience as well. I like doing that on my channel as well, trying to get a little bit more traction for channels that are just starting up.
And it doesn't have to be like what we do.
Hmm.
I mean, I know some people that just go around their neighborhood
Yeah.
with their with their video on their phone rolling
Yep.
and talking.
Yep.
It can be that simple. Um, it just depends on your interest and your inclination. But even if you don't do that, just start asking questions,
Hmm.
because the narrative is so flimsy, and your books show that really well. Um, people find me, and it resonates with some people, and it doesn't with others,
Hmm.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
I my goal is to reach people and wake them up, with eyes to see and ears to hear. What I do very sincerely. It comes from my heart, but I also feel like it was something that I came to Earth to do. It
Hmm.
feels like a mission for me, a soul mission, because there's no reason for me to know any of this stuff from my background and where I was born, and family. This wasn't any part of it, and still isn't.
Yeah.
It's not something I can talk to my family about. So um, my life journey is what woke me up, and I made different decisions from most people. I haven't had a conventional life. I've lived in a lot of different places, but I've always had an interest in this hidden history, but there just wasn't that much available
Yeah.
up
I'm
until the
similar.
internet.
I was always interested in the pyramids and Angkor Wat and some of those big early discoveries, the early Graham Hancock stuff. Um, I always thought that was like the cutting edge, and it was for a long time the cutting edge of our hidden history, until you stumble into this old world and find how recent this really is, right? It's like the
Right,
next level of that research to me. It's
right.
like way closer to us in time than they said it was,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and and that seems like that's where some of the different guidance that people doing the research have differ.
Hmm. Hmm.
But everything that I see and believe points to this happening very, very recently and
Yeah.
deliberately.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it has to when you look at the buildings themselves and how intact they are. I don't think you can shove it back a couple thousand years or 1500 years. It feels too long. Woods would deteriorate, paint would flake, and a lot of these things are firmly intact. Unless, of course, the building materials are of much higher quality, which I suppose they are. But that's part of my reasoning um, into bringing it into a much more recent time frame with the evidence we're seeing.
And that's an area you're familiar with,
Yeah, that's my bread and butter. Yeah.
as your background. Matthew Smith, who was one of the people interviewed in the Old World Order documentary, that was really well put together by Sean Hibbler,
Hmm.
to get this in a digestible form to people who may not be following this. I mean, it seems like if it gets enough momentum, it could maybe cross over
Yeah.
into a more mainstream audience.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's meant to do. It's not meant to answer everything. It's like this is what we found. And there's a lot of voices in this, mine and Matthew's and Max Eigen and
Dr. Narco
Narco
Longo.
Longo and Lord Jamar
Yep.
and bear with me.
DJ Penn was in there, I think.
DJ Penn and Kenny Loudon with My Lunch Break.
Kenny Loudon, yeah.
And Steve Caston and Johnny Giampapa. And we're all coming from a place of sincerity. And, unfortunately, this is having to come from the bottom up. The top down has been lying to us about everything.
Yeah.
About everything.
Yeah.
And so we're not all we're just sharing our perspectives from our research. And unfortunately, there's so many different opinions that it's very, there tends to be conflicting opinions. And even, they could have built it 200 years ago. And we're saying, we don't think so. We think this is pre-existing, and this is why. So there's that level of believing the narrative, because that's the easiest choice, right?
Yeah. It gets into the timeline part of it too. Like it's confusing.
And Martin,
how they may have overlaid timelines, because time is not linear, I think, and we've been trained to believe that time is a linear path. So I just really wonder what kind of overlaying and changing has gone on in this timeline we find ourselves in now.
I agree, Chris, and that's probably a source of some of the discrepancies between different lines of research. I mean, I think they've messed with it on an occult level. So they're ritualizing and they're doing ceremonies and they're doing things to keep us bound and to keep us from waking up. And so that's another part of this. And, that goes down several rabbit holes, but this did not happen by accident. And human beings by nature are not what we are seeing today.
Yes.
We're not evil, selfish creatures. By nature, we're compassionate and kind and loving. We can be turned into what we're seeing today.
Yeah.
But we're not that way naturally.
And I often wonder, is there an element of genetic modification that has allowed them to open that door into our consciousness and maintain or gain that control?
I'm sure it has. I'm sure it has. And the thing is, what my research, why don't you go ahead and turn it off, because I think it's going to be kind of distracting to see me talking and me talking.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's no charge to watch this. It was on Stu's Networks for a while, and then Sean uploaded it on his channel, Hibbler Productions, a week or so ago, and then I emailed him about putting it up on my channel, and he sent me a file that I could upload on my channel. So this is free to watch and pass along. Yeah. And you don't have to agree with everything that's in there. We're offering our perspectives and encourage people to think for themselves and do their own research.
Yeah.
And, the thing is, we've been lied to about everything. So one of the reasons the controllers have been so successful in keeping us down and keeping this information from us is all they have to do is throw a pebble in our direction and get us at odds about how things are. There seems to be a desire to be one theory that's going to cover everything and one right answer. And I don't see things that way. Yeah. And that gets back to what you were saying with layering. I think this timeline's been occulted. I think there was a deliberately caused cataclysm that was actually the result of an occult ceremony. And that within the timeline that they inserted over the original timeline that they've, attributed every building in existence, every piece of infrastructure in existence. They've given a date and a builder and all this other stuff in a time frame. So they superimposed their new timeline on top of what was already here. And there's more rabbit holes down that way, and I've researched timelines quite a bit. So I've become pretty knowledgeable actually about their timeline here.
Yeah.
And
one of my favorite parts of your research actually is that aspect of it. So the problem is when we look into the past, the filter they gave us is filled with all these misdirections. So when I look into the past, I see ancient Rome, I see the Middle Ages, I see the Enlightenment, I see the Renaissance, I see, American Revolution, Civil War, World War I. That's my chronology that they put back here in my head. And we really have to remind ourselves that that was put there. So we can't, while we're questioning one thing, we can't, it's not helpful to anchor to another, if that makes sense.
Right. So I just want to conclude with the thought that got me going in that direction, which is that the reason they've been successful is they are together. They tell the same lies. They say the same things. They don't fight each other. They don't question each other. But like I said, they can just throw like the apple. I think there's a Greek myth about that. So, throw the apple and get the people going in different directions and at odds. No, it's this. It's not that. It's this. And it's very easy to do, I think. So while they've got us coming from all kinds of different directions and thinking one is more right than the other, they're getting their energy. It does not benefit us. They've created this whole system. And where my research is leading is that they knocked out the free energy grid, and I think that's what caused the destruction of everything. Whatever you choose, whatever caused this devastation across the face of the earth, and it is across the face of the earth, whatever caused that, when the controllers came in, and we're talking, if you're familiar with the 13 families, there's probably other families we don't know anything about, hidden structures within structures, but they're the face of it. The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the DuPonts, the Astors, they're the face of it. My belief is they were shovel ready. The Ames shovel shop showed up in Easton, Massachusetts in 1803 and was credited with opening the West. The DuPont family set up their company in Wilmington, Delaware in 1802, the year prior, for explosives and gunpowder. These are the kinds of things that you can find online. What were they? They got that in place, and then they started exploring. Lewis and Clark, 1804 to 1806, and Matthew Flinders on the southern coast of Australia was in that same time period. Alexander von Humboldt was doing the same thing, starting around 1799, same time period. All of that was taking place around the same time. In my mind, they were exploring the surface of the earth after the cataclysm took place. So those were the earliest explorations from that time period. And then you get into explorations like the Beagle, went on 3, and then the French had one and the Americans had one. And so they were all sailing around, say, between the 1820s and 1840s. And they were claiming lands, studying botany and things like that, and getting their specimens and basically getting the lay of the land, seeing what's there, and making claims. And I've done a great deal of research on that, and it's not the place really to go into it, but there are patterns here, and they were setting up their new system. And so they knocked out the energy grid, so they needed to find replacements, and that's where we get the mining, the coal, the gas, the automobiles to replace the transportation systems that were run by this system, the streetcars and the trains and the subways. They needed a replacement transportation. They needed a fuel source for that. And then once they started getting those in place, they started removing those rail systems.
Yeah.
Okay. So where my research is leading me is that they have reverse engineered that free energy grid into the matrix. And they're using our energy to power this.
Our energy is the fuel source.
Yes.
Sounds about right.
And I have been providing evidence for that as I go along, but I'm working on 2 projects right now. And somebody that I partnered with who is an excellent researcher, but he doesn't have a channel, Aaron, has been finding these amazing alignments showing up with Kirkbride facilities, which were insane asylums starting about 1850, with Civil War battles showing up on these alignments, capitals, Masonic lodges, Walmarts, golf courses, star forts. They're all showing up on these alignments to show that there's a connection between like Civil War battles and even battles from World War I, World War II in Europe.
Would that be this video here?
That's one of them.
Yeah.
The other one is in the bottom right, showing at the bottom right side of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love them both, and really amazing to see these connections being made.
Right.
Yeah.
So he sent me an alignment that he tracked on Google Earth between the Pyramid of Teotihuacan, one of the pyramids in Mexico, to the Great Pyramid in Giza. And he was prompted to do that after watching a video. And I've got this in my, it will be notated when it comes out off the top of my head. I can't think of which one, but it was a video that he had seen. With the title of, the 6,666 mile mystery, nautical mystery between those two. So when the research for this is finally done, it will show the correlation of airports, pyramids, mounds, schools, fitness centers, agriculture that are clustered along these alignment cemeteries. I'm about halfway through. I'm in South Carolina with the research, and I'm on my way to Egypt.
Okay.
But
You've got a
but
ways
when it's done,
yeah,
it's going to show a lot about how they've done this.
Yeah.
And what they've done. And the place I'm stopped at in South Carolina was the site of the Savannah River nuclear site.
Okay.
And so Aaron sent me a ton of research that's going to link in Olympic sites, nuclear sites, craters.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Pyramids. And so there's a bigger picture within that that I don't understand at all, but we can show you the correlations that these things fall on alignments. And so my theory at this point is that the pyramids were like this energy source. And I went to the Bosnian pyramid complex earlier this year, and it's a very, very healing place. I mean, the energy there is off the chart. That somehow they've reversed the positive healing energy of this original pyramid grid system.
They've inverted that too.
That they've inverted that, everything's inverted, and that they've replaced it with churches and schools and cemeteries and all these other things. And I'm working on providing that information that will go further than the two that we've done.
The Bosnian pyramids are interesting because they're a relatively new discovery as pyramids, as far as I know, and of course not accepted yet in the mainstream as such. Is that correct?
Not in the mainstream, but grassroots, yes.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
quite obvious when you look at them that they're pyramids.
And the pyramids are everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, those are the ones that have the attention because of the location and the international interests. I mean, it's so many volunteers over there helping.
Yeah.
And so they reverse that, and then they do specific things to lower the energy on the grid lines. Instead of enhancing our consciousness, we're kept down on a lower level because they do false flags on these ley lines. The insane asylums were on ley lines, and unspeakable horrors that took place there. I mean, the ones that I've encountered are invariably haunted.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so of course, conditioning this fascination into our current consciousness with horror movies and with tours of these haunted places, and they're, you know, charging money and getting paid, and, you know, it's all just reliving this really intense negative emotion that's been created by the beings behind this. And that's all they care about. That's why I said, when we disagree and want a particular point of view, as our whole community of people that are looking into these alternate explanations, and I'm speaking very generally here, that only benefits the beings that have created this system, this polarization. So we wouldn't come together in this peace and harmony that is our natural state. You know, instead, you know, create this, you know, almost this pushback on a different idea just because it's different. And, you know, like it does take a village. We all have different pieces of this.
Yeah, it's the oldest trick in the book, right? The divide and conquer thing. But,
yeah.
And that
so that's what they want.
Yeah, that's what they want. And giving us a false history is key because they're keeping us fighting with each other multi-generationally over what could potentially be something that never happened at all. You know?
And you can add religion to that.
Absolutely.
You can add science to that.
Yeah.
You know, and if you just take the example of, you know, flat Earth versus spinning ball, which is probably the best example of the polarization.
Yeah.
If you just take that one example, our entire science is supporting the spinning ball. I have moved to believing that we're on a plane, and we're not what we've been told, the heliocentric universe. And I believe the giant trees were destroyed with this cataclysm, and I think that's what caused what we call the mud flood.
I want to get into that for sure. I just want to say too that I believe, I'll take it a step further with the globe, I believe it's actually a part of their mind prison for us, to keep us trapped in a singular view of where we are. Because I think even if you just explore the possibility that we're not spinning out of control, there's a stillness that comes upon you. I've experienced it, and I've seen it in people as well, and their mood toward life seems to change when they begin to entertain the possibility that we are not within that heliocentric model, I guess you could say. That's my perspective on it right now, and my experience with it.
Yeah, you know, and whenever I'm researching something, so now I'm doing some research that I've done before, but I'm going deeper with it because it's like I know more now. because
Mm-hmm.
of all the other research I've done in the in-between.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I don't know something, I research it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not a scientist.
No.
I'm just an independent researcher, going along with my intuitive guidance. And so I can't come from a place of absolute authority with what I'm saying, but I can show you the pieces of the puzzle that go along
Well,
with that.
I don't think
And
anyone can come from a place of authority. That's the problem with the system that they set up, right? Not to interrupt you, but you know what I mean?
I do.
Like we have the high priests of education in their fields as well that are keeping us in those boxes where they want us to be, you know?
So with what I was saying about lowering our consciousness on the energy grid by insane asylums and false flags, but they're also harvesting our energy with the schools and the churches,
Mm-hmm.
other things as well. I haven't quite figured out how cemeteries fit in, but they're part of this too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're harvesting our energy is what they're doing. They don't care that we're educated in truth.
Mm-hmm.
They just want our energy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, saying all of that, I'm very optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very optimistic that they're just about done
I
and
agree.
that this system is on its way out. But
Yeah.
the lies have gone so deep that, again, it causes the conflict that we've been talking about. They're not experiencing conflict. They're all lying the same lies,
Mm-hmm.
or they're all telling the same lies. They have no loss of sleep
Mm-hmm.
because they're getting what they want,
Mm-hmm.
which is our consent, our money, our buy-in to this system. And one of the reasons I think it's on its way out, one of many reasons, is it's based on lies,
Mm-hmm.
lie upon lie,
Yeah, it can't
fake
last.
legal system. And with the internet, which my understanding is was brought in for control, we've actually used it to wake up,
Yeah.
because without it, I couldn't do what I do. You couldn't do what you do. People wouldn't get the information. Not everybody's ready for it, like I said, but those that are, it's really eye-opening, because
But
once you see it, it's everywhere.
it makes me wonder, was it brought in for control? Or is there a um, benevolent aspect to, you know, um, within the bounds of their structure? There's the light always wants to get through the cracks, right? So I
Right.
wonder about that as well. Because you're right, the internet is coincides with the explosion of our consciousness, I think.
Right. And I
Um,
would agree with you, but then there's good and bad and bad and good.
mhm,
And yeah, there's a bigger spiritual thing going on
mhm, mhm.
both ways.
Yeah.
This was their chance. This was like their one chance to do what they're trying to do, which is
Yeah.
set up dark as it.
Yeah.
But to do that, they knew from the beginning they had to have our consent,
Mhm,
because we're sovereign beings and because of who we are. So they had to convince us that they were the, use the word authority. They were it.
mhm,
And
mhm.
they've done a good job. They've
Yeah.
done that.
Yeah.
Um, but the other side of the equation never left and has always been with us. And
Yeah. And,
we experience that with synchronicities in our lives, just magical coincidences.
mhm,
Um, with Had they been able to just come in and do it, they would have.
mhm.
They wouldn't have created this whole fake system to trap us.
Yeah. And I'm seeing, we think about the last 4 years and the big attempt, and those of us that saw through it immediately, and how frustrating that was to see the people around us not seeing through it. I just want to share that what I'm noticing now is, in my daily life, people in a face-to-face level that I never would have thought question anything that went on. Um, are really starting to put that under the microscope. So I'm really noticing almost an exponential increase in awareness going on right now at this period of time. Where right now we're in December of 2024, as opposed to the previous years where they were still locked in that energy harvesting system. I think they're getting out. I think there's a wellspring right now of people escaping that system.
Right. And I don't think we're in this alone. I think there's a myriad of forces here to assist us. We're talking about criminals, absolute criminals,
Mm-hmm.
at the highest levels,
Yeah.
all over the earth.
Anti-human. Right.
And they want to get away with it. They don't want to be held responsible or accountable. They want it to keep going on. They want the gravy train to continue. And they're more exposed every day. And then the other thing is, you've got the ages, the cycles of time,
Mm-hmm.
more light coming in. And I do believe that,
Mm-hmm.
changes and upgrades to our DNA. And that we ourselves are participants in this awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Not just those that have chosen to go this route that we have. Other people bring different gifts and intuitions to this awakening. So my understanding with the way the consciousness works is that everybody that each individual person that raises their consciousness raises the collective.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't have to be everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The way that it works. David Hawkins' Power versus Force, if you look that up, he talks about that. Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also think there's gonna be a general shift, like a majority shift, because there comes a point, and you're kind of seeing it with what went on in the recent U.S. election, when the perception becomes the majority is now starting to see things this way, then people who need to remain within the majority in their state of being will shift in that direction, like a herd shift. Like if you think of like a herd of caribou running through the plains, 3 of them move out of the way because they can see danger, but the herd hasn't sensed it yet, and then it gets to the point where the entire herd shifts because the danger is there. So I'm wondering if we're getting close to that point where the entire herd now is going to, or is shifting away from the cabal BS, if you will.
Right. And I've been awake, really quite awake, since about 2012. I was waking up even more between 2006 and 2012. And prior to that, I wouldn't call myself awake, but I was aware. So even though I didn't know really what I know now, I was, still drawn to alternative information and things like that, but nothing like where I am with it now. Mm-hmm. But it's taken a long time. Yeah. It's taking longer than I thought, and not the way that I thought. But
there's time again, right? The concept of time, right? It's like we're linear, but I was going to ask you too, if you don't mind me asking, what your take is on the black pill approach to what's going on.
I'm not doing this because I think they're going to get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense, I suppose.
But the people that are awake, that know all of the lurid, horrible stuff, mm-hmm. and how entrenched it got. I mean, they set up a whole system targeting us. Most people don't know about it because they weren't affected by it, but people, other people have been. Mm-hmm. That know about the horrible, 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 horrible stuff. Involving all kinds of people, but children especially. Mm-hmm. And it's really bad. Yeah. I really don't go into that, but I'm aware of it. And every once in a while I'll touch lightly on it, but other people do that. So, it's out there for those that want to find it. Where all of this leads. I mean, the bottom line is we have something of value. Mm-hmm. for the controllers, whether it's our energy, siphoning our energy, or our DNA. They feed on that. They don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
They feed on it figuratively and they feed on it literally.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, their system is built around harvesting energy, whether it's our energy or animal energy. Chaos,
Mm-hmm.
order from chaos. We create the chaos and we provide the solution.
Mm-hmm.
And, it almost seems like people don't change unless they're pushed to the extreme. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. And I think that kind of explains what you were just saying.
Yeah.
We've been pushed to the extreme. And even people that don't know all the details that we know, or, and out there, it's like, hey, this is, look at this. Just look at this. And that's really what my work is. Look at this.
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
Unfortunately, in some sense, it seems like it had to be this way. The extreme had to happen to trigger the revulsion from their system.
Yeah,
right?
and I can tell you, when you talk about timing, and this couldn't happen fast enough as far as I'm concerned. These changes.
I hear you.
But I also realized that when I moved to Sedona from Oklahoma City in 2017, from the Oklahoma area, and by the time I moved to Sedona, I already had the puzzle pieces and I already knew I had to do something with them. And from the moment I got to the Sedona area, which includes Cottonwood, West Sedona, Village of Oak Creek, Sedona. I lived in that area for about 7 years. I'm in Prescott now, which is about an hour and a half drive from there, but still in the same county. From the moment that I got to Sedona, everything that happened to me led directly to me doing this. Everything, synchronistically. And so it was timing. Had I stayed in Oklahoma, it wouldn't have happened. I got to Cottonwood in February of 2017, Cottonwood, Arizona. I went to the Cottonwood Jobs office because I needed to find a job. I wrote down that I was a veteran when I signed in. I got on the computer, I updated my resume, and went home, and then I got a call from somebody that said, I didn't realize you worked there. She said, I didn't realize you were a veteran. The Veterans Jobs guy is coming tomorrow. So I went to talk to the Veterans Jobs guy because I was in the Army for almost 4 years. So I could go to college. So it was, oh Lord, 1982 to 1986 was when I was in the service. Okay. And I married a retired Army sergeant. He had passed away in 2001, and had very little from that. We weren't planning on that happening, so we didn't have anything saved, and I didn't get anything from the Army after he passed away because we didn't buy into the survivor benefit plan because we didn't think we needed to, or had other more pressing needs at the time. Yep. And so the jobs guy said, you need to talk to the benefits guy. He's here today too. I had all my paperwork in the car. The benefits guy wasn't going to be back for another month. So like the window of opportunity was like, it was like that. Because had I missed any of that, I would never have gotten a VA pension. Yeah. And I was able to get a VA pension because my husband's death was connected with Agent Orange.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Horrible.
Okay. So 17 years after he passed away, I started getting a pension, which changed my life. And, opened up time where I could start doing this. Another, that was just one example. That was like the first week I was there. That's just one example of the synchronistic things that started to happen. And the people that I met, and, one thing led to another, and eventually led to the work that I'm doing.
I'm curious, did you believe that process was happening at the time, or were you oblivious to the synchronicity of the situation?
I wasn't oblivious. I wasn't oblivious. I didn't know where it was taking me. I think what
something was going on. You knew that's.
I'll give you an example in just a second. So,
Yeah.
no, there are a couple of things that happened, and one is I already had the information, and one of the ways I had to explain it was when you have a mission, the universe conspires to help you, and that's basically what happened. But the night I arrived in Cottonwood, that was the first place I landed. The Motel 6 was a different place. Motel 6 allows pets. This is really important. So I had a cat. I could not find a place to stay. And I stopped by a Quality Inn in Cottonwood. And, this guy's like, I'm sorry. And I went I was looking around everywhere. So I ended up in the Walmart parking lot. One and only time I've ever spent the night in Walmart parking lot. Yeah. Because I didn't have a place to go. I was tired. had driven all day from Oklahoma. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, I went in to get some food at Walmart. And I hear a voice behind me say, "Did you find a place to stay?" I turned around, and it was the guy at the front desk at the Quality Inn in Cottonwood. So this was like, let's say 8 hours maybe. And from that moment, the synchronicities were wild.
Yeah, awesome.
And so, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. And there's, I really believe that I was born to do this. I really do believe that that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I think you're right. Of course.
This has been an old world exploration. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and comment. I believe we are in the process of remembering who we really are and casting off the shackles of illusion. Until next time.